Hey, it's Matt with the 12th update for my layout. This episode continues with the widening of the roadbed from south of Circleville and still dealing with homosote spline. This section, though, focuses on a scene that will eventually contain a bridge. And because the bridge will require me to cut out a section of roadbed later to install it, I wanted to glue this section together so that it would remain stable and I could treat the glued homosote kind of like a wood product. To do that, I had to retrofit the existing spline. It's about a 41-inch span here. And retrofit requires just unscrewing the screws, enough so that I can split this spline away and then squirt some glue down there. Here I'm putting some masking tape beneath it to catch the glue that drips through. At least that's the idea. Tried a couple different techniques. The first one here met with success, but it was a bit messy. I just squirted it down the crack and then kind of squeeged it around by patting the homosote in and out to make it spread. And of course, shooting the screws back on will serve as the clamps. This section through here, just as kind of an aside, uses 1¼ inch screws, which don't go all the way through the 1½ inch roadbed width. So it worked very well. Even that last 1/4 inch bit into the last section of homosote very nicely, so I didn't need to put both sides in. So there's a split there. There's one 8-foot section ends and another 8-foot section begins. So glued the first section. Now I'm taking the screws out of the second section on the side closest to the camera. Side close to me, I'm just backing out about halfway so it releases the homosote closest to me. This I modified the technique. I used the generic ubiquitous hotel key card, which serves multiple purposes, like a shim and a bunch of other things, but among that, makes a fantastic glue spreader. Once that's all smeared in there, just shove screws back in. That serves as self-clamping. And I'll move on to the next day after this gets all clamped up, and we'll continue that. So I'm starting on this section that's closest to the camera, the spline section closest to the camera, and then next day I'll go and do the same thing to the spline closest to me. And that way I'll have a 3-spline wide section of glued roadbed. So once these screws are out on this side, I will not need those anymore. They'll go into the recycle bin, or reuse bin rather. And then took the screws close to me all the way out this time rather than just halfway out. And once I get done with this section, then I'll start widening it for the second track. So this is a repeat of the previous day using the hotel key card and has the glue spreader approach. Most of these sections are butt joints between sections of homosote length. I try to keep off curves. That one there I'm putting glue into it now. That happened on a curve, but a very broad one, so it's not too bad. All right, it's clamped up. I'm not sure why I put clamps on it this time. I apparently felt the need to. And then we'll go on to the next day and start the actual widening process. So here I'm fitting a new section of homosote in and getting the length right. And there's a riser right in front of me by my hip, and this section of homosote is apparently just a little bit taller than the ones already in place. So I'm using the oscillating saw to cut a slight notch out like you see me do in previous videos. It's just a little more of a close-up here, which is kind of handy. And that makes it fit nice and flush on the top. Once I'm happy with that, I'll start the process over again. And this will go a little faster since I don't have to push existing splines out of the way to make it work. This bridge will be actually a bridge modeled north of Circleville that passes over what was old US 23. They lowered the highway roadbed and raised the tracks to accommodate that. I passed through it many times in my life and figured that that's close enough to my history to want to model it. All right, so now this is the I guess it'll be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th spline in this 7 spline roadbed. This one needs to be cut, so I just marked it to length, fit in place, and put a mark on it with a Sharpie. The oscillating saw back out and cut it with that. I've mentioned before, this is a great tool for cutting homosode. I use a metal cutting blade to cut it, and while it makes some dust, it's not nearly as bad as using a different type of saw, and keeps the dust very localized, so it makes it easy to clean up. Now this one, since it was so short, I could put the glue on in a civilized way, like you would for any woodworking project. Much simpler. Clamp that in place, as was done the previous days. And fit the final piece here. This is actually I think just some scrap that happened to be the right length, or almost the right length anyway. And everything's clamped together, and then we'll go into the final day to do the gluing on that last section. Shouldn't say final day, last day. Or later the same day, excuse me. And once this section's done, then I'll be double tracked all the way from the staging yard and just off to my right where the stool is. I'll be double tracked there all the way around through into and through Circleville. Now here I'm putting some screws in, so even though the title says gluing only, no screws, the section up at the top of the screen where I'm working now, that was homosode that was already in place. It just wasn't fastened to the first track of the roadbed. I hope that makes sense. And so I shot a couple of long screws through there just to stabilize the whole structure. So I'm get to the last step of gluing this last 3-foot section in. That'll be it. So it's been in, when I'm recording this, it's been in place for, I don't know, a month. It is more solid than just, possibly than screws alone, but I wouldn't repeat this for a large section layout. I do too much reconfiguring roadbed to glue things in place. That's too permanent for me. Thanks for watching.